I'm doing good. How are you? Cool.
Hello? There we are. All right. There was another switch. I was informed about one switch. Anyway, howdy. You're doing great?
I'm doing good.
I'm doing great. Wonderful.
Terrific.
It's been already been a couple of days of a lot of fun here and plenty more fun to go. And I heard that near the start of the event, you've already had a run going from Tiny Toons Adventures 2. How did that go?
That went pretty well, actually. It was from a category that I hadn't run as often as the main category, namely hard mode. It was an incentive also, and I got met thanks to the very generous donations from everyone. Yeah, I recently had a run at a different event that didn't go as well, and it was very nice that I finally got to make a comeback of sorts with that, and that this went a lot better by any means. So I'm very happy with that. I was very happy with that.
Yeah, I've seen a few other people talking about comeback runs. It's always wonderful to see when people can redeem the previous disasters into something beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, that's also wonderful.
All right. So looking at your speedrun profile, you've done a lot of obscure and weird games. And like, how do you get to picking all those games? How do you find out about all this?
It's a mixture of things, I would say. So some I sort of come upon eventually because I see others play it, or I randomly stumble upon it. And on the other hand, it's also a couple of games that I do that I used to play as a kid or used to rent back then. And oftentimes those were games that I never used to beat back then because I was always getting stuck somewhere. And it was basically my way of kind of taking revenge upon these games and just, trying to see if I could do it as a speedrun and actually beat them legit for the first time sometimes. So there's that too, but also, just from various communities and whatever I can find really that kind of tickles the fancy, I guess.
Very cool. All right, and so like following up on that, well, you're going to be playing Beardblade in a little bit. How did you get to Beardblade?
I'm not sure where I was that I saw it for the first time, but I think it was a couple of casual playthroughs that I saw from various people, some people that I follow on Twitch, and it looked really interesting. Like it had a very, it's a 16-bit inspired platformer, an indie platformer that came out last year, and what struck me was, I mean, first of all, I like platforming games, so there was that, but also the visual aesthetic really looked pleasing, its use of color, so there was that too, really, and that combined inspired me to seek it out eventually and play it for myself and eventually try it out as a speedrun.
Very cool. I'm definitely still got that on my to-play list.
Can recommend.
So
go play it.
How much more powerful has your own beard gotten since you played it?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. I was already mentioned before, and this is actually the toughest question. It may have secretly grown stronger. I'm very curious to find out what the future holds in that sense.
Yeah.
So it might become extremely epic in, say, another month or so. I'm very curious.
Soon you'll be bench pressing with your own beard.
Basically,
yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So tell me something about the features of the run. Like, what are the tricks, glitches, skips, sort of things?
Well, most notably, you have some upgrades that you can buy, and the game itself, when you play it casually, there is all kinds of upgrades that you can buy with money. You can grind for money and get certain cool new features such as rolling and various other things. But in a speedrun, there's also a couple of things that you do. Namely, there's a part where you grind for a certain amount of money, and you, in part, you make yourself a little bit more powerful. But in addition to that, you actually buy the rolling upgrade that I was talking about, because it does make you go quite a bit faster. So after a certain point, that's what we've tried to use throughout the speedrun as much as possible. So yeah, that's definitely a strat, if anything.
Very cool. All right, so like, was this a hard game to learn? Because a lot of these platformers, indie platformers and such, are very tricky. So
it can be, I guess, yeah. I mean, in this case, I don't think it was as tough to learn. Also because it was very much level-based, so it made it easy to kind of dissect it and kind of try out these separate levels for yourself, really, almost as if they were like if you would go for ILs or something. So there was definitely that. That definitely made it a lot easier to go through the entire game, just try things out. And also, well, there's an interesting thing in that the game has a day-night cycle. So that means that you can play the same level, but you take a different route. So it's almost like each level is like 2 levels, basically. And so for the speedrun, there is a certain route that we take that is more ideal. Like you skip certain auto-scrollers. So yeah, there's that too, but you can easily practice those as well. You can easily get there as well.
Cool. So if anybody out there is looking to pick up this as a speed game, what are like the things you would recommend to them? Any tips and tricks?
Any tips and tricks? Well, I mean, just you mean casually speaking, like
Yeah, just like how for a new speedrunner to the game, what
for
are
a new
things to
speedrun?
look out for?
Well, I mean, definitely the upgrades, and also, well, in that sense, just take a look at what some of the other speedruns are doing. There's a couple of players of this. There's currently a top 5 of players on speedrun.com, and you can, for instance, check out what the world record is doing in terms of movement and see where they optimize certain things. And there's enough platforming that's done, certain tech, movement tech, that's really interesting to watch.
Right.
Because there's definitely a couple of stages that can be pretty tough. And if you get there, it's definitely perhaps a thing to try it somewhat more slowly, just to kind of ease into it and take it from there, really.
Cool. So what would you say is the best or most beardy ability in the game?
Well, I must say I'm mostly familiar with the speedrun nowadays, even though I've actually beaten the entire game. But I mean, the various things that the beard can do is just it's really cool to see that. Really, it's basically, you have to see it's like a shape-shifting beard. So you attack and it becomes like a sword, or if you jump and it becomes like a punch, or there's actually some other things you can do with it eventually. There's like an upgrade where you can attack with it on the water. I think you could throw it around like a boomerang even or something, but I've actually forgotten about it because I've mostly been focusing on the speedrun. But
Right.
I think there's so many things about it that are really cool, I think.
Awesome. So what are the big hype moments in the run for people to look out for in a bit?
Well, I mentioned a couple of tougher stages. One that comes to mind is there's the final level of the Shallowed Shipyard. It's basically the shipyard-based level with yeah, some shipwrecks and such. And there's one level that has a lot of pits and where it's rainy, and there's a lot of dropping platforms. So what I usually do with the rolling and jumping is I try to maneuver past that and all the things that I can grab as quickly as I can. So there's some risk involved in trying to anticipate things to see what you can do, and also trying to avoid the enemies that are in the way as well.
Right.
So there's also these jumps that you do. So it can be pretty tense at times. And also there's, in the second Another Forest level, there's a lot of balloons that you encounter, and also, again, a lot of pits. It seems like it's all very pit-based, but
Yeah.
it's not just that, but those are some of the trickier stages to really get right.
Yeah, I believe I've seen a bunch of rolling around on tiny platforms into balloons to bounce around.
You try to bounce off of them
Yeah.
and basically gain height and hopefully not drop, and otherwise you have to sort of improvise and basically try to save yourself, or else, yeah, you have to restart from the checkpoint again. So
Yeah.
at least there's that, but still, it can cost you quite a bit of time if that happens.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you would like to mention about the game coming up?
Well, I would go see it for yourself. It's a very fun indie platformer. It's 16-bit inspired, so, and there's a lot of really cool throwbacks. Like the rolling kind of seems to evoke Donkey Kong Country. There is a section that seems like it's drawing a bit of inspiration from The Lion King, and I'm pretty sure if you see it for yourself, you'll have a lot of other references for yourself, like, oh, that looks like that game or that game.
Yeah,
So
like the overworld map, kind of Mario inspired almost.
yeah, you could say that too. Like there's a thing with the day-night cycles where it seems like I think it was Wario Land 3 or something that did a similar thing, and I'm pretty sure there's some other games too, but that directly came to mind for me. So yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had with that. So yeah, just go check it out. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, well, then thank you very much. I think we know plenty about the game now. We know what's coming up, and I hope it's going to be a good run.
I hope so too.
All right, good luck. Thanks for the interview, and see Beardblade in a bit.
All right, thanks for having me.
Cheers.
All right, thank you very much for that great interview. We are all excited to see that Beardblade. By the way, my name is Textera. I'll be hosting for the next couple of runs. Also, when you saw the interview, you probably noticed the prizes.